are you aware that Lindsay told one of the therapists that she wasn't close with you as in-laws? And that
I didn't know that, no.
That she said she doesn't generally allow the in-laws to watch her children?
I did watch the kids.
Okay, but are you aware that she told the therapist that?
No.
Are you aware she told the therapist that she didn't have any particular reason why and that they don't bug me about it either?
I didn't know any of that.
Now, Lindsay, the defendant, she communicated with you via text about her issues with sleep and the medication she was taking, right?
Yes.
And as far as the ER visit where the trazodone was prescribed, do you recall having a back and forth conversation with her about that it's okay to increase it if you weren't getting any relief?
The doctor told her that, so I repeated that.
Okay. And so you're aware that she was, in fact, increasing the dose?
I did not know that.
Now, once she was seeing Julie Paul, did you continue to have conversations with her about how she was feeling?
Yes.
And you knew that she was taking some new medications after she saw Julie, right?
Yes.
And sorry, these pages are different than mine. At some point, after being prescribed some medication, you recall that Lindsay told you that she thought she developed a benzo dependency, correct?
I vaguely remember that.
That would be on November 29th, where she says, I just deep down inside of me feel that I've developed a benzo dependence after just 2 weeks of using it, and I feel like no one is hearing that and addressing it, and we keep throwing different meds in the mix that aren't really addressing the real issue. Do you recall that message?
It sounds familiar.
And she asks you, or you respond, so hard, I don't know what to do, so should you not use it? And she responds, I guess not, but then I don't sleep, right? Do you recall that?
I can't say for certain. It sounds right.
Okay.
I don't remember a lot of specifics.
And on November 30th, she says, and I'm just gonna try to show on the screen here. She says, I'm not okay and I'm terrified of taking meds tonight. Do you see that in the green?
Yes.
And then your response is, why are you scared? Why happens if you don't take them? What are you afraid of? What about Ambien, right? You're actively trying to help her kind of figure out the medication.
Yes, there were a lot of medications.
Okay. You're aware she wasn't prescribed all the medications at one time, but just a lot of different combinations were kind of thrown around as options, right?
It seemed confusing.
That she's very clear, and she tells you which medications she's taking, right? Ativan and Remeron.
Probably.
Okay. And then she also tells you on November 30th, when you're talking about it, she says, I know they take time to reach a therapeutic level to have the desired effect, right? Do you remember that?
Yes.
And then you respond, exactly. And she tells you that she's just depressed and she thinks it was brought on by the medication, right?
I don't remember that.
Okay. Well, on November 30th at 7:52, I was never, ever this depressed. It was brought on by the medication. Did you say that or did she say that?
She probably said that.
Okay. Now, you were asked about the holidays and Thanksgiving. You remember Thanksgiving? Where did you guys go for Thanksgiving?
To my daughter's house.
And do you remember telling the grand jury that during Thanksgiving things were better?
I don't recall.
Well, do you remember her saying that she said things were better? Do you remember that?
Vaguely.
Okay. You were asked, what was Lindsay like during the big Thanksgiving gathering? What observations did you make? Answer, she smiled. The girls all had Thanksgiving t-shirts on that sort of matched. We took a picture. She mostly focused on the kids and interacting with the cousins and the aunts and uncles. At one point, she went off a little into the distance, and I approached and asked her how she was doing, and she said, I'm trying hard to get better. I'm still working at it. I asked about her sleep. I thought that was important, and also the fact that she lost some weight. She didn't have an appetite, and she said things were getting better.
Okay.
Now, during the holidays, you, in fact, took some time off of work so that you were around a little bit more, correct?
Correct.
And so when you were around a little bit more, did you spend all day, every day at their house?
No.
Fair to say you would come sometimes play with the kids, right?
Yes.
Do shopping for her.
Correct.
And then you actually went on vacation.
Yes.
You and your husband went to Aruba.
Yes.
How long were you in Aruba?
5 or 6 days, I think.
Okay. And now moving towards Christmas, you had dinner with them at their house on the 23rd, right?
I don't remember.
Okay. Do you remember breakfast on Christmas Day?
Yes.
Was that at their house or someplace else?
Their house.
Okay. And then what did you guys do after breakfast?
We went to church.
And fair to say you've previously testified that breakfast was great.
Yes.
And that church was beautiful.
Yes.
And in fact, the defendant, she told you that it was great and that she was glad she went to church that day on Christmas Day.
Yes, she did.
And then after that, you're aware they went down to Connecticut to see her family.
Right.
Now, are you an active member in the Catholic Church?
Yes.
Okay. So you're aware that murder is considered a mortal sin?
Counsel, could I see you over here? All right. And what that means is you are not to consider it for any reason or any purpose. Okay? All right. Counsel.
So you were aware, Mrs. Clancy, about the stay at McLean Hospital from January 1st to January 5th, correct?
Yes.
And did you come to the house to help with the kids during that time period?
Yes.
And fair to say, when she came home on the 5th, there was a party for Cora on the 7th.
Yes.
Did you go to the birthday party?
No.
Were you at the house much between January 7th and January 24th?
I don't remember.
Do you recall previously reporting that you hadn't been at the house?
I don't remember.
And during that time period, you never took the kids on a day trip or for a visit?
I don't recall.
And were you aware that between January 7th and January 24th that Pat and Lindsay went to the Cape Codder with the kids?
I'm aware of that.
And that they went to the Museum of Science with the kids?
Yes.
And that Pat left Dawson and Callan home, or excuse me, left Dawson and Callan home to go take Cora skiing. Were you aware of that?
It sounds accurate to me.
On the ski trip, did they ask you to come over and stay with Lindsay while she was with the other kids?
I don't remember.
And you were asked on direct examination about Lindsay going to see providers, and you said, I think she was begging for help, right?
She was.
Did you attend any of those meetings with her, therapists or doctors?
No.
So you don't know what she told the providers, right?
I don't know.
And you don't know what kind of help she asked for other than medication, do you?
No.
And do you know whether there was any other options offered to her other than McLean, like a partial hospitalization program or intensive outpatient? Were you aware of those options?
Yeah.
And do you know if she went?
She went to Women and Infants.
So that's the one day where Pat dropped her off and went skiing and then came back, right?
I believe so.
And nothing further.
All right, Ms. Springton, redirect.
So she asked you about options that were available to Lindsay, correct?
Yes.
And you mentioned one of them was that she could go to the Women and Infants program in Rhode Island that specializes in perinatal and postpartum, right?
Yes.
You know that she went there, right?
Correct.
You know she was turned away because she was over-medicated, right?
Yes.
You also know that they gave her numbers to call suicide hotlines, right?
Yes.
She called twice, not once, but twice, and again was turned away. Isn't that right?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Como.
Just on that. So you're aware she was turned away because she told you she was turned away, right?
I don't remember the details of that visit or that day.
You didn't review the records, did you?
No.
So you're not aware that they actually deferred to Pat and Lindsay reporting over medication?
I remember something being said that she wasn't a candidate for that program. That's what I recall being told by Patrick and Lindsay.
Okay. And that's because everything she described was reported connected to medication and occurred well after what's considered the postpartum period, right?
I don't know.
Well, you're a labor and delivery nurse. You know the postpartum period could be up to a year, right?
I've heard it could be longer.
But generally, it's within the first 12 weeks that you start to see some symptoms.
I don't know.
But you're aware that she was sent from Women and Infants with actually several options, where it included inpatient treatment for medication management, a partial hospitalization program focused on general mental health, or continued outpatient management. That's what she was sent away with.
Okay.
Nothing further.
May I? One more?
Go ahead, one.
So outpatient management, that would include somebody like Gelada, right?
Yes.
You know that women and infants called Gelada and she never called them back?
I didn't know that.
Come up with anything on that?
No.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Let me step down. Thank you. All right, well, members of the jury, this is one of those stops that I told you about we're going to have kind of throughout today. So I'm going to ask you to go back to the jury room, hopefully just for a short amount of time, and then we'll bring you right back in and we'll continue with the evidence. Okay?
All rise, please, for a second. Members of excellent decorum, this court's in session. Please be seated.
All right, counsel, I know that the next witness is scheduled to be Dr. La Posada.
Yes.
And she will be testifying by Zoom.
That's correct.
And I think that at some point after we talk a little bit, we're going to have to take a short break just to make sure that logistically everything's all set up with the doctor and the system here. And I appreciate everybody's help technically in setting that up. And I know that the defendant has provided, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 exhibits that counsel wanted to introduce through Dr. La Posada. And so I guess, Commonwealth, have you had an opportunity to take a look at these?
Yes,
All right.
and we are objecting to these
No.
items. Yes.
All right. And so why don't we discuss those here in open court and go through it. And so I've had the opportunity, I saw these this morning as well. And so Commonwealth, why don't I hear the objections and then I'll hear from the defendant.
The main objection is that the drawing is inaccurate. The window well is in the wrong place, and where they have her falling and landing in slide 4 would be where the window well is actually placed in the photograph. I can pass up the photograph to the court. This is in evidence, I believe, maybe a couple times. But talks are discretionary, but what they should not do is mislead a jury and present information that's not accurate. And so the drawing itself is inaccurate. And so we're objecting to these slides.
Is that the Commonwealth's objection, is that the window well is in the wrong place on the drawing?
And putting aside the late disclosure and the fact that I don't know if anyone who created this is going to come in and testify that they created it and whether it's to scale or not, but the main objection is that it's inaccurate.
All right, Mr. Reddington.
Thank you. Your Honor, obviously, the window well, you've got, this thing is ridiculous. There's the diagram we're talking about. The window well, I'm just going to, you already have a copy of it, right?
I do, yeah.
The window well is depicted on the diagram. I suggest accurately. And in fact, measurements were taken by the gentleman who did the computer animation in conjunction with information by way of medical provided by Dr. Laposada. And it shows clearly that, as Verona can see, that we're talking about the x-rays that are included. There are exhibits that she attaches that shows the way that she falls, how she hits her head. The Commonwealth has been suggesting that, I guess, that they are confused as to how she would have ended up the way she did. This shows the way that she landed on her head, gets the Jefferson fracture, falls back, legs are facing out from the house, she's laying in the snow. They're all depicted there. If there's an issue with the window well that's off according to the government, they could raise that on cross. They could say, well, the window well was really 6 inches to the left instead of to the right. That never struck her anyway. It's totally irrelevant. I think that they are useful for a jury to be able to review. I did have copies made for the jurors and the court, as well as the DAs. And Dr. Laposada has it. And then I could go, I could go through, but you can see that we've taken the diagram, the window, where the body lands, and then to the right of it would be the actual X-ray. Dr. Laposada can compare the injuries, talk about the Jefferson fracture. There's a photograph that shows the blood in the snow, shows the area, and the photograph actually shows the window well. And I suggest the window well on page 6 is exactly the way we have it depicted. So I don't know what the objection is. I would ask that the court would allow this to be in.
All right. Well, I guess it appears to me slides 4, 5, and 6 certainly go towards the doctor's opinion as to, we said, the mechanism of the injury. That shows the head striking of the ground, and then on the other part of the slide has the X-rays, and there's also a slide regarding the Jefferson fracture diagram. And then 5 is a diagram showing how the thoracic spine injury could have occurred, and there's a diagram regarding the thoracic spine, specifically T6, and then slide 6 shows and I think there has been testimony as that is where the defendant was found, and also then there's a thoracic spine. I think it's either an X-ray or some type of scan, as well as some of the additional medical devices that were found in that area. I'm not quite sure about 1, 2, and 3.
That's fine. I can remove 1. I can remove 2. And we'll just focus, if you want, on 3 through 6.
I think that goes more towards the doctor's kind of background and kind of what had been offered in regards to her opinion.
Your Honor, I think you said you were unsure of 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
And defense said he could go with 3, 4, and 6. 3, 4, 5, and 6. So 3 was an issue, was it not?
What's wrong with 3?
Well, I think, again, I think 4 kind of would cover what's dealing with that. All right. So I would allow in slide 4, slide 5, and slide 6.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Not our objection.
And so what we'll do is, objection noted. And then what we'll do is take a short break at this point, set up the Zoom call. Also, I know we're going to have to probably make certain changes to the jury book that was going to be presented. So the only slides that will be in that book will be, like I said, just so we know.
4, 5, and 6.
Yeah, just so we know which ones we're talking about.
Okay.
There's a book?
Well, no, it's not a book. It's just Laura stapled together all of the exhibits.
All right, so just so we know what we're talking about, right? 4 and 5 is the thoracic spine.
Yes, and like I say, I've got enough for the jurors plus you and the DA's.
Right. Okay, and then 6, I just kind of want to make sure that we're all talking the same.
6.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, so why don't we do that? We'll take a short break so that those changes can be made and we can set up for the Zoom, and then we'll come back out and we'll proceed with Dr. Lapasada.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Court, all rise.